hold this cactus. We'll need it later. What? Oh, shit. Sorry. Let me get some pliers and bandages. You'll be fine. Just remember you have it. So, it's been the better part of a year since I put out anything substantial. Where was I? Right. Why am I making this? Because of the Project Moon brain rot. It compels me to share, in as concise a way as possible, where this all originates from. To do that, I wrote over 100 pages of...
I will not be silenced!
Shit. Sorry about that. To do that, I'm going to go through the first 2 games in the series and meticulously dissect the exact moments where these games worm into your head and evict the Toxoplasma gondii that's currently making you want to get more cats. The works of Project Moon are endlessly interpretable, and it's difficult to say how deep the canon goes. This video is the product of a year of work after having consumed nearly every part of the Project Moon universe, be they books, webcomics, games, or otherwise. It is very thoroughly researched, double and triple checked and nitpicked already. But it is still an interpretation, and those are allowed to be wrong. I welcome those corrections, but please keep in mind that I have worked extremely hard on this. Now then, there was a genuine moment when I realized I was infected, and it was when I rebooted the game after shutting it off due to abject frustration after failing a 40-minute day for the 5th time in a row. That was when I knew I was in too deep. Everything was Project Moon now. I've become insufferable, hyperfixated, incurable. And now I'm going to make it your problem. The virus must spread. So, sit back, relax, maybe put this on as you're going to sleep for maximum saturation. I've spent nearly a year on this, and I will make this one way or another. It's been incubating inside me for too long, and I need to let it out or my head will split open. Tonight's topic, Lobotomy Corporation, the place where it all began. Describing Lobotomy Corporation can be done in 3 words. SCP Management Simulation. Truly describing Lobotomy Corporation can be done in less words. Pain, frustration, Stockholm Syndrome, brain rot, madness. I may not be entirely here anymore. This is a game with such a simple loop that nonetheless requires near perfect execution, or everything goes wrong. It has 2 different retry buttons. And that's where it gets you. Each day you get a new abnormality to fuck up on, sometimes more than one. You don't know what fucking up means, so you inevitably get someone killed. You reset, try again, and again, and again, all while continuing to work with the rules established by previous days. Interact with the express train to hell every 3 minutes. Make sure to keep Big Bird happy before it decides it needs to save people. Kill at least one person every few work sessions so Queen of Hatred doesn't escape. Don't click the funny red button. Keep an eye on Burrowing Heaven during the entire work cycle. Don't forget who Nothing There ate. Don't keep an eye on Schadenfreude. Don't ever let Yin and Yang meet. You get the picture. Fail any of these, and you're likely going to wish you could rebind the Restart Day button to an actual key press. Now do it 50 more times. And that's just the normal gameplay loop. By day 45, the complexity has grown to the point where you've either developed severe trauma or severe muscle memory, and I'm not sure which is worse. An employee dying will release Big Bird and Mountain of Smiling Bodies, which in turn releases Firebird, which releases Little Red Riding Hooded Mercenary, which then releases Big and Will Be Bad Wolf, and he releases Yin and Yang. Things can explode faster than Frankium being dunked in water, and mistakes are no longer accepted. It is the nature of unfortunate occurrences in the facility to snowball, a fact the game even takes full advantage of on several occasions. Adding into this, we unlock the departments over the course of the games. Mostly adding to the general space we need to manage, the departments also introduce the real stars of the game, the Sephiroth. Each Sephiroth has a story and missions that allow us to learn more about them, the facility, and Lobotomy Corporation. Over the course of the game, they remember more and more of their past. Malkuth, Yesod, Netzach, and Hod all only remember their time at Lobotomy Corporation. Yesod, Tiphereth, and Gebrah remember specific parts of their past, but are generally missing important memories. The final set, who I refer to as the two eyes of LobCorp, are Chokmah and Binah. They remember everything. As we learn more about the Sephiroth, things go downhill. If I had to recommend one thing from this series, it's the way the writing builds upon its gameplay. It's where those memorable characters rise from. It's the writing that makes you start paying attention to things. Why do Netzach's words make me want to quit my job? Why is it so hard to do high-quality work day after day after day? Why is it so hard to be a really good person? How can we trust the information that's given to us? These are just some of the questions that Lobotomy Corporation makes me ask myself. The other questions are simpler. Why am I still playing this game? Still haven't found an answer to that one, but I can't seem to stop. So, since this is a story analysis, do I recommend Lobotomy Corporation? Allow me to answer a question with numerous other questions. Do you like pain? Do you like to stare into the void until it calls the police? Do you want to challenge yourself in ways you hadn't even thought of before? Do you like overcoming seemingly impossible odds for a goal you don't understand? Then yes, this game is for you. Go buy it, and I hope your pets have an automatic feeder. For everyone else, I genuinely don't know. This game feeds on player pain, and removing any of it cheapens the final delivery. So it's really up to how hyped you are for that UPS truck. In fact, aside from a mod that allowed me to play the game at 10 times speed, I barely changed my experience. My head hurts. Have you ever heard of Carl Jung? I promise this is related. He's a Swiss psychiatrist who founded a style of practice called Jungian psychology. Jungian psych is based around the importance of the subconscious, and frankly, he's part of why I think I'm still here. At its root is a concept called archetypes. The dark forest, the trickster, the shadow, and immeasurably more. Even things as simple as the shapes we see. We subconsciously connect meaning to them, and they shape our thoughts. These archetypes are shared across all humans because we all grow up in the same environment, with the same general way of thinking. We are all human because we all see these shapes. You might say that we share a collective subconscious. That's what the abnormalities, these SCPs in Lobotomy Corporation, are. They're each an archetype made manifest. Problem is, archetypes are always dangerous to the psyche, and now they're dangerous to the body as well. Great job, guys. For a whole 20 days, we get familiar with the abnormalities. We learn how to manage them, how to exploit them. We learn how to handle the unexpected in the form of invading creatures called ordeals. For a while, we are just the manager of a facility with a lot of people dying daily. Sure, there are cracks in the facade. There are signs of something deeper. Someone calls you telling you to seek the truth. You get a letter from A, the founder of Lobotomy Corporation, with the same sender and recipient. You play word games with the assistant AI. But for a while, we can ignore it. For a while, it's all still a game. Project Moon's writing has layers, just like our facility. It's time to start descending, and that descent starts with Tiphereth. Tiphereth, the first real sign that something's off. It begins when we hydraulic press the child. And the AI we just crushed bleeds. At this point, we've been working through the stories of each of the various Sephiroth. They give us little missions. They aren't too hard. Get through a day without having anyone die, promote an agent, suppress an abnormality, kill a dusk ordeal. Wait, what? When we get to Malkuth, the first Sephiroth's fifth and final mission, we can't even accomplish it. A dusk ordeal won't even spawn until day 21. And when they do, they won't go down easy. This is Lobotomy Corporation's first real difficulty spike, and it's entirely intentional, because we're not here to have fun. We're here to torture ourselves. Here's a question. What do you think happens at the end of your 50 days of Lobotomy Corporation? Our stated goal is simple. farm abnormalities to produce good vibes so that we can make enough energy to meet our quota. But we later find out that the pipes that send energy out of the facility have been rusted useless for years now. Another question, then. Where is all of that energy going? Oh, look at that. You killed it. That wasn't so hard, right? So, anyway, remember the Sephiroth you did this for. Malkuth is the leader of the control team. Cheerful, hard-working, and so forgetful that she needs to write down everything in her notebook. She seems dependable. She gives us lectures about the importance of the control team. She keeps high standards, shunning employees that have given up. She insists on dealing with everything efficiently, with no regard for the toll it takes on her underlings. She never gives herself or others a moment to recover. She's never forgotten that she's the problem child. She's never forgotten that she's the one that makes the mistakes. As we complete her missions, though, we learn that she wasn't always this way. She had no talent whatsoever, and it ate at her constantly. She became impatient to prove herself. Especially, never truly acknowledged her existence. She felt out of control of her role in the world, and eventually, drastically, finally, it manifested in a mistake that would cost her life. Eager to prove her value to the team, she broke into the test lab and injected unrefined cogito into herself. It destroyed her, liquefying her insides. The last thing she saw as she crawled to the manager's feet were his shoes, turning away. These people know you, but even they can't explain how they know you. Malkuth is the remains of Elijah, the girl that died at your feet. Now that she's finally been given an important position where her work can be acknowledged by all, her desire to prove herself has pushed her far past the point where she can just stop. She's not allowed to ask for help. She must stand on her own 2 feet. She must remain in control. And when she remembers what she did, the torment that our lack of attention inflicted, she decided that we needed to know that torment too. We have to prove that we can remain in control without her help. Welcome to the real game. Malkuth's core suppression is our first in the game, and each of the Asiyah trials are a test of our ability to act without the help of the specific Sephiroth. Our attempts to fix our mistakes aren't heeded, work orders swap around randomly, and notes become mandatory. Malkuth inflicts the trials she had to overcome on us, and when we prove that we can manage despite it, she finally acknowledges us in return. Malkuth sobers, and she finally admits that we might be able to stand strong enough to bear the suffering she's been through, and that of everyone else beside. Above all, she reminds us that we must not look away from the suffering. They've borne it for long enough. Now, it's your turn. Did you notice something? The gameplay restrictions of that core suppression put us in the mindset of Malkuth, forcing us to empathize with her. It's never brought up. It's left for us to understand the significance of that. This is how Project Moon's writing starts to reside in your head. Along with it comes another glimpse past the veil. Still got that cactus? Good. We can talk about the cactus now. Every day that we manage, we get a little conversation with look, we'll get to her later. She's not important. On one of these days, the cactus is brought up. The question is posed on whether or not we think the cactus will ever bloom. Our assistant mentions that it should be possible, given the right care, but she's never seen it happen. If we say we do think it will bloom, she notes that we speak as if we've seen it happen already. There's a mocking note in her voice as she reminds us this place doesn't even have sunlight. Even as she says that we might as well keep it if we're so certain. Similarly, she asks us why we still have it if we tell her it won't bloom. Maybe we should just get rid of it. Why do we still have it anyway? Is it because it's too rude to get rid of a gift? It's just a hazard to keep around in the chaos that is the desk. It might prick us as we reach for other things. The cactus is a metaphor for the goal of Lobotomy Corporation, the seed of light. As we progress through the game, the various department heads begin to regain their memories of the time before they were here. We learn things about them. Asiyah, the top layer consisting of Malkuth, Yesod, Netzach, and Hod, are all about various qualities of the self. Their names aren't mistakes either, as each of the individual Sephira is directly connected to their namesake. Malkuth has trouble remaining grounded, Hod is dishonest, Yesod is thoughtful, Netzach is a good boy. Each one has stories that need to be broken down. Like Malkuth, they are small parts of your past. Right. Your past, X's past, the manager's past, A's past. The Sephiroth aren't the only ones recovering memories here. Of the Sephiroth, Yesod is one of those most directly affected by our past. Frequently known as the Viper by his employees, this android, robot, cyborg, man, AI, box on legs, is in charge of the information team. His job is to censor information to protect the minds of the employees reading it. He's reserved, straightforward, and strict. He comes off as cold and distant, but there's something hiding under Yesod's exterior. In his former life as Gabriel, his bottled emotions find other ways out. He begins to imagine himself rotting from the inside. He scratches at his skin, wears longer clothes, hides himself. Enough that A, now fully aware of the danger ignoring others can do, pays him special attention. It's this attention that ultimately seals Yesod's fate. To make use of information, you need to interpret it correctly. Gabriel's story proves this, and he asks us to prove it too. More information is censored as his core suppression goes on, and it becomes nearly impossible to see the specifics of anything. Work orders, employee stats, even managerial instructions, the very rules Yesod made to keep others safe, become completely unreadable. Mistakes become easier to make as you start to question who is wearing what. Was that agent's temperance really below 3? Were they resistant or weak to black damage? What was the instant kill threshold for Blue Star? Who was wearing Firebird's armor? Is that a clerk or an agent I'm about to shoot with an execution bullet? Is this even an execution bullet? Actions become harder to justify, and even things like how much longer the day will take starts to become questionable. And, well, that's entirely intentional. Because nothing was wrong with Yesod. He's perfectly normal. He grieves just like we all do, but he won't let it show. When Elijah died, Gabriel did what he could to atone for her death. New rules were put in place to ensure that they wouldn't happen again. When we clear his core suppression, he extends those rules to the manager too. To him, you're someone worth protecting. Yesod is about the damage that hidden information can do. He tells people facts, but nothing else. Facts without context risk the creation of unexpected outcomes, and for Yesod, the redacted context was his own feelings. He wouldn't, or couldn't, cry for help when he needed it. After we complete his core suppression, Yesod changes only slightly. He says he can be in as much despair as he wants now. That he's allowing himself to grieve openly. Allowing himself to speak his mind when something is wrong. Where Yesod hid his feelings, Hod is an open book. She has little confidence in herself, but counteracts this by genuinely trying to be a good person. As the youngest member of LobCorp, she gets taken advantage of easily. Her attempts to counsel her department's employees leads to prescribing them with doses of opium. The same substance we harvest from abnormalities for energy. When it's revealed that the employees were simply preying on Hod's inexperience to get an easy fix of drugs, her world starts to crack. Employees, formerly playing off of Hod's yearning to be acknowledged as a helpful force in Lobotomy Corporation, begin to downplay her role instead. Attacked on all sides by accusations of self-serving altruism and seeing the results of her enablement, she begins a doom spiral towards self-doubt. Influenced by Netzach, she takes opium, speeding her along, allowing those voices to become hallucinations. Ultimately, what breaks her is the memory of her role in the original lab's destruction. As Michelle, she was manipulated by the agents of the powers that be to reveal the nature of her superior's experiments. All because she couldn't stand how human life was treated by A and the others. Unable to cope with her own betrayal, she committed suicide shortly after. When she woke up in Lobotomy Corporation as one of the Sephiroth, Hod saw it as a second chance. Where her actions caused the death of all of her former co-workers, now she forces them into counseling so she can save them. Her altruism is not just a result of her character. It's a desire for redemption. Unfortunately for her, her use of opium as a shortcut makes it clear that she never truly understood the troubles her employees were going through. She is self-serving, and her own voice confirms it. This core suppression is one of the hardest ones, depending on when you attempt it. Certain abnormalities require Hod's guilt-driven training to survive, and as the day goes on, agent stats are reduced closer and closer to zero. Eventually, even the weakest abnormalities become major threats. It's only through our experience that we can move forward and overcome the mistakes of our past. It's something that she still hasn't understood. Following her core suppression, Hod accepts that she helps people for her own good. But that doesn't make her worse. Altruism can be self-serving, but as long as it still helps people, that's all that matters. Even in the hell of Lobotomy Corporation, we can always hope to become a better person. We can always find a way to improve. Hod also deserves special mention as both the hardest of the early core suppressions, but also the one that proves how valuable completing them can be. Lobotomy Corporation's gameplay can be unforgiving at times. Sometimes it's smarter to reset from day one and try again. While this may seem detrimental at first, the upgrades gained from completing each mission and core suppression are permanent, and none affect the early game as drastically as Hod does. Simply put, Hod skips the majority of the training process, allowing you to directly hire trained employees at no further cost. These sort of game-changing upgrades are what incentivizes us to face the core suppressions to begin with. Only by facing the fear can we build the future. However, some of those in Lobotomy Corporation firmly believe that we have no future. Netzach is my favorite character in LobCorp, and head of the safety department. He's hard to talk about. He doesn't hide behind his ideals or lie about his feelings. The closer we get to Netzach, the sharper his words cut. He's been given an impossible job that he never asked for, and he's not allowed to leave. How can he even function as the head of safety when people can die without warning? As a result, he spends most of his time drunk, missing, or high on enkephalin. Where most of the Sephiroth will try to speak with tact, he shows no care whatsoever for hierarchy. Even when Tiphereth constantly berates him for his performance, no one ever takes action. Finally deciding to test the limits, he attempts a fatal overdose. For him, the only path out of this constant misery is death. But of course, this isn't Netzach's first death. Once he was known as Giovanni. Once he was a sickly patient cared for by Carmen, the co-founder of Lobotomy Corporation. Once he gave his life so that she might have her own. Now, not even his life is his to take. That sacrifice amounted to nothing. Carmen died, and now Netzach is useless, pathetic, and without a fear in the world. Netzach's core suppression is a reminder of what fear is. Disabling your ability to heal or regain sanity for the entire day, what was once a veneer of safety falls away. You're forced to pay attention to the health and well-being of every employee. Damage is no longer temporary, and mistakes will pile up. Only by progressing the day can these wounds be healed. Once you prove you can overcome the fear and continue to move forward, Netzach wakes up. Netzach's twin deaths are fascinating. In both cases, he took a lethal injection. As Giovanni, it was a test injection of Cogito, the same drug Elijah took. That injection was meant to be a noble sacrifice for someone he cared about, someone he saw as better than him. And then, this action is repeated again, this time with opium, the result of his original death. When he's at his lowest point, when his life doesn't have any meaning, he seeks an end, and is stopped. Once, A killed Giovanni. Now, X stops him from taking his own life. Sacrifices are not allowed. Only by seeing everyone as worth saving can we move forward. Only by understanding why we face the danger can we move forward. Only by facing life can we build the future. I love this fucking game. For each of the Sephiroth we've faced, they end their core suppressions with something of a backhanded compliment. Malkuth acknowledges that you might be able to handle the torment you've inflicted. Yesod starts to feel all the pain he's been repressing, pain caused by you. Hod acknowledges her own faults, but recognizes yours are even deeper. Netzach is different. Netzach, of all of them, recognizes you're starting to change. The Upper Sephiroth. As we've met and learned about each one, we've discovered a quality we must improve. Malkuth required that you stand on your own and face the torment that's coming. Yesod forced us to display our ability to act without information and remain calm. Hod is the need for redemption and understanding that your actions will be judged by others, but all that matters is that you're still trying to improve. And finally, Netzach forced us to display our determination in a world where we fear making mistakes we can't walk away from. As we pass from day to day, it becomes clear that all of these aspects are needed to progress. This is why I say the writing informs the gameplay. It is constantly reinforcing the story with how we interact with the game. Thing is, we barely notice. For us, it's just a challenge to be overcome. We still haven't lost that video game mindset. Tiphereth, then. Remember the cactus? Forget the cactus. We have Tiphereth now. We'll get to you. Tiphereth is the center point of the game in, I don't know, too many different ways. She's the Sephiroth in charge of Central Command, easily the biggest department in the entire game. Her introduction is the point where the game commits to showing you its true colors, as it's right after meeting her that core suppressions become available. She's also our first look past the goofy SCP management game, as things finally start to break down. She marks the connection between both the lower and upper halves of the facility, and the midpoint between Yesod and Gebra. Tiphereth is the hardest working metaphor in the entire game, and the dialogue knows it. She knows it. She supposedly created the other Tiphereth as a way to split the workload. But once you've cleaned up a few core suppressions, it becomes obvious that's just an excuse. The other Tiphereth is not a clone of herself. It's the remains of her long-dead brother, Enoch, who she lost in a tragic experiment. One which he asked to be a part of, but one that was allowed by you. Yet another death caused by you and Carmen. This is where we start to learn the difference between the upper and middle Sephiroth. While the uppers may barely remember their past lives, the middles are far more informed, and frequently remember broad strokes of their history. Most of them, like Tiphereth, remember enough to hate you. Tiphereth is the bridge between this life and your last. The middles are always missing just a little tiny detail that makes them go strange. Tiphereth B, Enoch, is evidence of this as he inevitably and repeatedly drifts into existentialism. Just like his original, he begins to question the why of the world, seeking to make it better. Each time, it ends the same way. We have to hydraulic press the child. This is not the first time Tiphereth has had to do this. It will not be her last. Every time a new Tiphereth bee is created, it's just a little further from the brother she knew. But he's never allowed to die. The facility won't allow him to die. Each time a Tiphereth bee is forcibly decommissioned, a new one is immediately created to take his place. Each time, less of him remains. There's just enough of him left behind to remind Tiphereth of the brother he used to be. And the process is slowly tearing even that away. As such, Tiphereth's request is simple. Kill him for good. You caused this. You have to finish it. You're now committed to what you've previously committed. Even though you, the player, don't remember any of this, it's all your fault. It should have been you. And you begin to confront the real monsters of the facility. As Tiphereth falls to grief, the work she's been doing up until now slips away. Massive numbers of Clifot meltdowns run rampant through the facility as you work through the longest possible day you've done so far. Things that lay dormant bubble into reality. The doubts, the nightmares, the forgotten thoughts that never truly found a form. You could avoid the ordeals before, but now they've come home to roost. You might still be able to run from them. Or you could face them. You will have to eventually, anyway. When you come out the other side, Tiphereth is still there. She no longer has to watch the person she loved so much slowly slipping away. Even at the end, she couldn't understand Enoch's desire to make a better world. She couldn't even begin to understand it. But she's finally trying to see it. And if that's what Enoch wanted, then she'll give it a try herself. She places her faith in us, not because she believes in us, but because it's what Enoch would have done. And that's all she can do for him now. And yet, there's another layer here. One I only realized as I was writing this script. Tiphereth being a child, one saved from the outskirts of the city, is not just casual world building. Enoch's sacrifice hinted at something that would later be brought up in one of Project Moon's later works, Leviathan. Simply put, we cannot allow our children to handle our mistakes. If we are to fix this world, we do it ourselves, for them. Otherwise, they will make the same mistakes we did, and the cycle of paving the road with sacrifices will never end. Enoch, of course, didn't know that. He never got the opportunity to learn from our mistakes. Layers on layers on layers. As the middle of the game truly begins, memories are a core. This is when you're reminded of your past failings which you forgot. This is when the Sephiroth speak with clarity, with some awareness of who you are, or who you were. This is when your identity, and the memories that come with them, are loaded. This is when it infects you. This is where the bottom of the pool you've been swimming in falls away. How can you be certain there's not another layer below where you are now?